Hello people, this is the Lone Wolf of YouTube, howling again, and you are invited to his den for some River City Girls 2. This game is a huge improvement over the first game and has a ton of content for a beat 'em up, as well as improving the fighting system. River City Girls 2 is now one of my favorite beat 'em ups of all time. However, it is more difficult than the first game. The enemies are more annoying, and the boss fights take a lot more strategy and patience. This boss guide hopefully will give you, the player, a decent idea of how to approach these battles. Keep in mind that I am not a pro level player by any means, but regardless, I do hope my advice can help you, and most importantly, I hope you'll enjoy this video. The first boss fight is against the arrogant rich boy, Ken. Ken is the son of Sabu and the stepbrother of Tsuiko. He's the first antagonist the player encounters in the beginning when he summons his right and left hand men Ryuji and Ryuichi and send you flying out a school window. Dude is showing off how much of a spoiled punk he is with his jewelry, leather jacket, and egotistical mannerisms. Ken may not seem so bad at first, as during the first phase, he'll mostly just walk up to you and try to attack you. However, there's more to him than meets the eye. He will instant dash across the room side by side and start spraying bullets at you. Where does he get all that ammo? Anyway, after he's done spraying, he'll tire out and breathe for 2 seconds. Use this window of opportunity to hit him with any combo you can throw out, and when he's shooting from the sides, be sure to sidestep them to avoid getting hit. Once the first phase is done, Ken will hide behind a barrier like a sissy and summon his Yakuza army to gun you down. Wherever you see him jump, walk to that spot to avoid getting turned into Swiss cheese, but watch out, because once the army is done shooting, Ken will jump in the air and do a quick dive kick on you. Sidestep this attack so that Ken whiffs and falls on the floor. Punish him with any ground attack you can use. During the third phase, Ken will act like he's Mr. X from Streets of Rage and start spraying bullets from the top left, right, and then center. Do not try to attack him while he's doing this. He's completely invincible the whole time. Wait until Ken jumps to the top center of the screen and wait for him to finish shooting, and once you see him gasping for air, go all out on him. If you're wondering if you can parry these bullets, no, you can't. Has anyone ever even tried to parry a bullet in real life? I don't know. There are a few more things I want to address about Ken before I forget. Ken will, on occasion, summon a henchman and swing him around as a get-off-me tool when being aggroed. How do you anticipate this? When you see Ken clenching his fist and looking like he's about to take a big dump, move out the way. This swing attack has a ton of coverage and range and will do decent damage if you're foolish enough to get hit by it. Wait until the attack ends and Ken gets dizzy and punish him with a combo. Ken will also sometimes cry like a bitch on the ground and have a 3-man stampede bum rush you, and if you're wondering, he is invincible during the animation. As usual, wait until after it's done to kick his ass. It's worth noting that if Ken melee attacks you in close range, you can parry him if you anticipate his attacks accurately. If you're lucky enough to pull this off, hit him with everything you got. With all this knowledge, Ken should be an absolute joke now. The general game plan in this fight is to hit him with any combo you got, but wait until you find an opening. If you play this fight with a 100% aggressive mindset, you'll be eviscerated. And now, it's time to face the woman with the legendary abs, Marian Kelly. Marian, whose first appearance in River City Girls was the first game, is a very famous character from Double Dragon, most notably as the girlfriend of Billy Lee. In this game, however, she has a close relationship with both of the brothers. Marian shows her growth as a character who was once a damsel in distress, but now has become a full-blown blaze-fielding Tifa Lockhart ass-kicking machine. There are many reasons to fear this lady. If her abs weren't enough to convince you not to provoke her, this boss fight will teach you that lesson. To start things off, right as the fight initiates, Marian will run towards you and punch the daylights out of you faster than you could say, "Whoa!" To avoid getting hit by that punch, press block to either defend or parry her punch. Only then should you get in and lay the smackdown on her candy ass. Marian is also pretty agile. She will often dash across the screen to evade your attacks and run towards you to land a blow. So you kinda have to beat her at her own game. The second she encroaches on your space, dodge immediately. Remember what I said about her loving to run up to you and hit you? Much like the other bosses, she has a 3-hit combo string she likes to do. This can easily be blocked or parried. Once the attack animation concludes, punish her with a combo. For the record, watch out for her red punch combo. This attack is unblockable and the only way to evade it is to sidestep it. It's important to note that you can hit her even while she's charging. However, she does have anti-stagger armor during startup. On occasion, Marian will jump and drop an unblockable people's elbow on you. Clearly, she's a big fan of The Rock. Just simply sidestep that move as it has decent coverage and damage. Once you defeat her in the first phase, Marian will do not 1, not 2, not 4, but 3 ground pound punches. The first and second punches can be avoided by running or evading out of the way just before she lands the punch. When Marian does the third punch, she charges it and lands an atomic blow that shakes the entire ground to the point where the sewers barf out acid. When she lands this punch, make sure to jump the moment she's about to touch the ground to avoid taking damage. After all of that, jump up on one of the 3 pillars to stay out of the acid. Oh boy, here comes the fun part. Marian clearly played way too much Donkey Kong if this is her next plan of attacks. Anyway, Marian throws explosive barrels at whichever pillar you're standing on. I shouldn't have to explain to you to jump away from the block to avoid getting caught, do I? Well, here's why. If the barrel hits you, it does decent damage, and God forbid if you land in the acid, which happens very often if you get smacked by a barrel. Bottom line, dodge the friggin' barrel. Once in the third phase, rather than throwing 1 barrel, Marian throws 2, which makes dodging them even more difficult. I find myself getting hit by them almost all the time. However, there is a trick to avoiding them effectively. Stay on the middle block. This way, you can either jump left or right from the middle to avoid getting hit. Always be sure to jump back to the middle block after evading to anticipate more barrels being thrown at you. By the way, this is extremely important. When Marian drains the acid, she will jump and do another ground pound punch, which eradicates all 3 of the blocks. If you don't jump at the right time, you will get hurt. Be wary of this situation. I forgot to mention that in the third phase, Marian does this charge up punch that literally looks like it's her version of Terry Bogart's burning knuckle. It might as well be, right? The best way to avoid this attack is to run to a corner, preferably on the opposite corner of wherever Marian is standing. That way she will automatically miss the punch by default, but you gotta move very quickly because this move is pretty fast. Sorry I had to interrupt my own video just to mention this, but I never realized it until I was editing it. So that's my fault. Sorry about that. One little thing I'd like to address is that every time Marian reaches half health on each phase except the first one, she will do the triple ground pound punch leading into the barrel segment. Overall, the idea of this fight is to combo her any chance you get, but be on the defensive when you see her chasing you because more than likely, she'll punch the crap out of you. Evade the barrels in the manner of which I've just explained, time your evasions correctly, parry her if you're good enough, shine your boot up real good, turn it sideways, and stick it straight up Marian's candy ass. And now it's time to introduce the newest addition to River City, the block-rocking badass, Provie. Fun fact, this character is heavily based on a friend of one of the developers who goes by the same name. I just need to say that if your name is Provie, you're a certified badass. This character made her first debut in River City Ransom Underground, and this game marks her second appearance in a Kunio-kun game. This chick hates the Yakuza and is willing to fight anyone who she believes works for them, and that includes you. For starters, Provie will run towards you at the beginning of the fight and attempt to combo you. Also, is she running like a ninja? Clearly somebody is a huge fan of Naruto. Anyway, the same game plan from the previous two fights is relevant here, and don't worry because this is the last boss fight where this happens. Believe it or not though, that's not the reason to fear this lady. Provie is incredibly more agile and faster than Marian due to her breakdancing fighting style and acrobatic skills. She will constantly hop around or run towards you, sometimes even taunting you. In addition to that, Provie does an upwards drill kick into a heel stomp that has decent coverage. Sidestep this move if you can, as she has a tendency to do it twice, and on top of that, it's unblockable. Next in her moveset, Provie does the flare, which lasts for about 3 seconds and has amazing coverage and decent range. The only plus to this move is that Provie does take a second to recover from it. This is the best opportunity to go in and punish her with a combo. And watch out, Provie has this shoulder spin attack where she travels across the screen, bouncing from top to bottom. Avoid this attack by jumping and wait until she finishes executing the move so that she becomes vulnerable to your attacks. One last thing about her moveset is that when she goes into the third phase, Provie will execute a spinning handstand attack that, once again, has coverage and range. Seriously, wait for it, this is getting repetitive. Anyway, do yourself a big favor and get the hell away from her unless you insist on tasting the bottom of her shoe. With her moveset out of the way, you're probably wondering if I'll bring up the two robots, and don't worry, I'm about to get to it. These towering metallic rock'em sock'em butt munchers are easily the worst thing about this boss fight, and one of the reasons why it's one of the most annoying fights in the game. These robots only become active when you're in the second phase of the fight against Provie. What they do is that they fire out a laser and then out of nowhere, summon a half ring of fire on the ground that requires you to jump over, unless you want to be incinerated. By the time the third phase comes, the left and right robots will attack a lot quicker, forcing you to divide your attention between them and Provie. For the record, don't jump on the robots. If you're naive enough to pull off this stunt, you'll take damage as they punch non-stop the entire time. I'm sorry if you wanted to kill the robots, but those things are invincible and you have no choice but to deal with them. Here's the verdict. It's a really challenging boss fight if you're unaware of the threats that lie within. Be wary of the robot's attacks, but focus all your energy on Provie. Her speed can be very intimidating to endure, so play this fight very evasively. When she taunts you, punish her. When she's groggy, punish her. When she tries to combo you, parry or block her, then punish her. Moral of the story, punish this bitch. And I'm going to go ahead to the next boss because I think Provie might be upset that I called her that. Please don't hurt me. So, next up in our boss guide, we have the Blaire Witch Project. Damn, that was a good pun. And this pun is literal because her name really is Blaire, and she's a witch, who also carries a cat that looks like it came straight out of a Behemoth game, except, you know, less effed up. Anyway, Blaire doesn't give a damn about anything. all she wants to do is cast spells on people for money, nothing personal otherwise. She happens to be the one responsible for Marian acting erratic earlier in the game. Her personality is apathetic. She shows almost no emotion every time she talks, to the point where she makes Sayatome look like the most emotional person on the planet. By the way, before I break down her boss fight, let me say this. Her theme song is really catchy. Right as the fight begins, Blaire executes an unblockable attack with a mace, which can easily be sidestepped. Use this window of opportunity to attack her with anything you have. Next thing, she disappears and summons 2 tarot cards, which decipher what she does next. These cards change every time she uses them, and you gotta get used to seeing them because Blaire uses this technique a lot. Now, wait a minute. One of her tarot cards has Yamada on it. Are they secret lovers? Anywho, Blaire summons at least 3 types of elemental attacks: lightning, fire, and water. She also uses D20 dice that move across the floor, brings in backup, and she'll even use her own cat to attack you. Regarding her elemental attacks, in particular the lightning, run away from them to avoid getting shocked. The other elemental attack she uses is fireballs. These fireballs will follow you, so try to avoid them as much as possible so that they disappear. Lastly, her water ball attack is horizontal, meaning that you have to sidestep it to dodge it completely. It's important to note that even though these are the only 3 elements she uses, she executes them in different ways. At least this was how it was when I first fought her. I'll give you an example. The balls she uses during Judgment changes its element every time. Some will even freeze you or poison you. As you go through the second and third phases, these attacks, more specifically the portal attacks, gain more coverage. Be wary of these attacks and avoid them at all costs. Remember what I said about her summoning backup? Well, as far as I'm concerned, when she uses the Lover's Tarot card, which has Hasebe and Mami on it, it summons the cosplaying wannabe dollar store Harry Potters. Eradicate them if you ever see them. They're pieces of crap. Speaking of summoning for backup, in the third phase, when she gets the Death card, which seems to only happen when you knock her into the third phase, zombie spawn. What is this? Resident Evil? Did George Romero design this? Take down these zombies ASAP because all they'll do is get in your way. Finally, for those D20s she spreads out, jump up on one of the 2 platforms to evade them altogether. At first she only fires 2 of them, but in the third phase she can fire up to 4 of them. She will often use this move while executing other attacks at the same time. She's quite a multitasker. So due to the fact that Blaire unleashes most of these attacks at once, the way to deal with her is to wait until you see her walking on the ground and dodge anything that comes your way, and if she's wide open, go all out. She rarely does any melee attacks as she's more of a magic fighter, and the most she'll do in close range is use the mace attack, which is very slow and easily avoidable, but be careful because it can also fire off a projectile. In my opinion, Blaire is one of the easier boss fights in the game, but don't take her lightly. Coming up next is Tsuiko, or as I like to call her, the privileged rich bitch. Tsuiko is responsible for using her social media influence to publicly embarrass Misako and Kyoko, and we're about to give her a good ass kicking for it. For starters, it's pathetically obvious she was born rich and had everything handed to her on a silver platter because she is spoiled as all hell. I'll try not to verbally assassinate her as much as I really want to, but here's the thing. She's the most annoying boss in the whole game, in my opinion. Here's why. Most people who know me know how much I feel about enemies using shields, but what makes this all the more insulting is that Tsuiko carries her stupid little purse and stares at her damn phone the entire time. In addition to this, she has a robot arm on top of her shield, as well as laser firing drones. Don't ask me where she got all that technology from. You know the answer. In any case, while she's walking around protecting herself, she will get herself lattes with these coffee machines, evidently treating this encounter in the most casual, carefree way imaginable. The idea of this phase is to attack her shield so she takes damage, but unsurprisingly, she has anti-stagger armor. Be careful when you approach her, as the robot arm she's got acts as a get-off-me tool. Additionally, she will teleport across the map if she's taken enough hits and toss grenades at you. Otherwise, keep attacking her shield while avoiding the laser drones until you begin the second phase. Once the second phase starts, Tsuiko teleports you into levels from Double Dragon 2 The Revenge and Kunio Tachi no Banka, also known as River City Girl 0, and you have to fight off the enemies and advance out of the stages. I actually like these references to the old Double Dragon and Kunio-kun games. Clearly this is a homage to Streets of Rage 4 where you can play the old stages from the past games. If you manage to complete these old levels, Tsuiko sends an army of drones, drops grenades, and summons the pussycat robots, all while still drinking lattes and staring at her goddamn phone. You see why I'm annoyed by her? This part of the boss fight is essentially like a bullet hell shoot 'em up. Concentrate on dodging the drones and the grenades before you go in and attack Tsuiko again. It is possible to attack her while avoiding them, but I personally wouldn't recommend it unless you're really good at the game. Also, be very cautious of the laser drones that surround Tsuiko, as she uses 4 of them instead of 2 and spreads them out more, thus increasing the likelihood of them damaging you. Once the drones disappear, keep attacking her shield as usual. Tsuiko also uses the drones again during this phase, so if you ever see them, don't forget what I said before about avoiding them. Repeat this pattern until you get into the third phase. Once you begin the third phase, Tsuiko teleports you to stages from River City Ransom, the NES version of the first Double Dragon, and the arcade version of the first Double Dragon respectively. At this point, you probably know what to do. Just beat the hell out of anyone that comes your way and make it out of these levels. If you thought Tsuiko was annoying before, it gets a lot worse from here on out. On top of dealing with the pussycat bots, Tsuiko shoots a huge powerful laser that locks on you, and the 4 floors that are see-through will electrocute you. This makes it so that you are more susceptible to getting comboed by the bots and the drones. Much like the second phase, Tsuiko will walk around with 4 drones, so be wary of them. I suggest fighting off the robots first so that they don't get in your way. Be sure to watch out for the electric floors and the huge lasers. Other than that, everything else remains the same. The idea of this phase is to play very defensively, as there are a lot of things coming at you at once. The less that's on screen, the more wide open Tsuiko is. One last thing to note about the drones is that the best way to dodge them is to either go over or under. If you see an open spot on top, jump. If you see an open spot on the bottom, go under. Overall, Tsuiko is a very intimidating boss fight if you're playing it for the first time. Just follow every bit of advice I've given about this fight, and you should be fine. Also, be sure to have food with you, as there is a chance you may get hit a lot. Otherwise, do the Lord's work and humble this privileged rich bitch. Coming up next is the most pretentious chef in River City, Primo. Where's Epico when you need him? Anyway, Primo is the host of a cooking show, and he's kind of an a-hole. He heavily mistreats his own staff and sees himself as being above them. So, to say that this guy is egotistical would be an understatement. Interestingly, while recording footage for this video, I had Primo start off the fight by literally doing nothing. He would just stand there and not do a single thing. I'm not sure if this was a glitch or if it was part of the fight, but either way, it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Moving on, Primo starts off walking towards you and does one of three things. He'll either hop on his applause sign and toss green peppers at you, he'll either do a spin attack where he throws knives at you, or he'll get close to you and do a combo on you. When you see him riding on the applause sign, there are two ways to approach this. You can focus on dodging the peppers, which is what I recommend, or if you're confident enough, you can knock him off the sign. It's worth noting that he moves really fast on the sign, making it slightly challenging to knock him off. Next, when you see Primo spinning like a fidget spinner, he will launch a lot of knives at you. Jump over them to avoid getting hit. Finally, when Primo walks close to you, be prepared to either block or parry him. And when he's done attacking, provided that you blocked instead of parrying, punish him with a combo. Also, do not attack him or stay close to him when he's on the ground. He has a wake-up explosion attack and has invincibility frames. Follow this strategy until you get to the second phase. Once you're in the second phase, you get treated to our heroes commenting on Primo's recipes, and he calls you a local idiot too. Damn, that's harsh. During this phase, Primo's pattern is the same, but his attacks have been buffed, plus there's new additions. There are two boom microphones that will follow you all over the place and then come down and smash you if you don't dodge quick enough. On top of that, there's a camera crew that rolls in and can run you over if you don't evade quick enough. Focus on dodging them first before you fight Primo again. Also, when the microphones land and they miss, hit them as hard as you can to get them out of the way. Sometimes they may drop food when you attack them. Regarding his buffed attacks, the green peppers he tosses have more active frames and spawn two little lines of fire that can combo you. Also, when Primo throws the knives, they ricochet off the walls this time. Be very cautious this time around, but follow the same strategy as the first phase and be more evasive. Once the third phase starts, Primo dances on fire, summons ballerina women, and sends walls of flames in both directions. I'm not joking, this is literally how the third phase starts. Where did Primo find all of these women? Oh, and did I forget to mention that you have to dodge a boom mic? Yeah, this phase puts a lot of weight on your shoulders. Just concentrate on dodging everything and getting that damn microphone out of existence. If you want to know the safest area, stay on the bottom of the left screen so that you only have to jump over the fire because the ballerina women won't reach you there. Once again, his attack pattern is the same but buffed. The peppers have even more active frames, and in his wake-up attack, he throws 4 peppers on top of stunning you and leaving you wide open to getting comboed. Also, his knife attack lasts longer and still ricochets off the walls. And I'm not sure if it's just me, but I think his combo attack has greater range and higher damage this time around. In a nutshell, the main objective of this fight is to retain the same idea from start to finish, but be more wary of his attacks as the fight progresses. There's also a chance that he'll do the ballerina attack again, so be sure to anticipate and evade it in the same manner that I've explained. Dodging in this fight can be difficult, so be sure to have food with you as a precaution. Evade his knives, his peppers, his boom mics, the camera crew, the ballerinas, and catch him when he's wide open. Remember that the less that's on screen, the more wide open they are. Real quick, before I move on to the final boss, let me quickly address Ken and the Dragon Twins, as well as the helicopter. First, you fight Ken again, but this time you have the unfortunate liberty of having to deal with the Dragon Twins Ryuji and Ryuichi. Remember when they sent you flying out a school window earlier? Well, now we can finally get our revenge, except you can't. They take no damage in the fight, and the only person who does is Ken. Functionally, Ken operates exactly the same way as he did in the beginning, but with the biggest difference being that Ryuji and Ryuichi are present. Use the same techniques I taught you earlier in this video to defeat Ken. However, you must be a lot more evasive in this fight because the twins are very aggressive. Remember to always block when necessary or parry if you're good enough. Finally, when you reach Samukai Tower, we learned that Sabuko was playing you for a fool the entire time as she pretended to be vengeful against her family to gain Misako and Kyoko's trust. After luring both of the girls to the tower, her and Ken fly a helicopter, dropping down the Powerline Elvis punks to attack you. The idea of this fight is to defeat the Elvises, and they drop grenades, which you can use to throw at the helicopter to do damage. Be sure to dodge the missiles, as the helicopter will fire them at you from time to time. Repeat this process until the fight is over. Okay, so I need to butt into my own boss guy video just to address this, but what the hell is going on here? Okay. Well, that happened. Carry on. And so we come to the final boss, the head of the Yakuza himself, Sabu. The most iconic villain of the Kunio-kun series is back to reclaim his throne as the biggest threat to all of River City. He injected himself with a serum that granted him super strength, endurance, and elemental powers. You'll be able to do damage to Sabu at first, but keep an eye out for his fist when it flashes, as it indicates he's in his stance and your strikes will have no effect on him. He'll land some hits, but they're easily stopped using the block button. And also, keep an eye out for his gunfire. Be sure to move around as much as possible, and you should be able to dodge them. He will also strike powerful assaults on you, and when he is ready to do so, he will touch the ground and glow a little before dashing towards your location and striking up. He will glow red as he attacks, so be sure to avoid the hefty blow and then punish him thereafter. He will also do area of effect assaults by ground slamming the battlefield. It will place 3 towers of boxes in the arena, and their location will be indicated by a red marker on the floor. To avoid Sabu's laser and fire attacks, stay away from the red spot and hide behind the boxes. Once you see him gasping for air, hit him with a combo. Once you've emptied his first health bar, jump immediately to avoid taking damage from yet another ground slam. This time, he'll travel to the nuclear to gain strength. He will summon the drones, who will shoot lasers during this phase. They will flash blue before firing, so alter your location if you are between those drones to avoid attacks. After the drones have left, try to hit Sabu with heavy attacks before he launches his heavy attack combination. He will launch the same strong strike at least 3 times from this point forward. Be sure to avoid getting caught by constantly shifting your position. After that, you'll be in a better position to retaliate against him. Sabu's double will join the fray every once in a while, but he can be quickly dispatched with relative ease. A few solid blows will be all it takes to bring it to its knees. One habit you must build during this entire boss fight is leaping into the air to avoid Sabu's regular ground slams. Whenever you see him jump in the air at a high height, be prepared to jump. Keep evading his attacks and continue to punish him with combos to deplete his second health bar. After the second bar is depleted, he will perform dart magic to gain even more strength and draw you towards him. Jump high into the air whenever one of the incoming fireballs gets close enough to be a threat, and don't stop running. Once you see him gasping for air, you pretty much already know what to do. Aside from that, he will keep repeating his ground slam moves, heavy attack moves, and so on. To keep dealing damage, you must successfully avoid his blows and then counter with strikes. That's the main idea of this boss fight. When his third health bar is depleted, you'll have to deal with him for one last time. He will start the final phase by channeling in his inner Akuma and perform the Raging Demon on you. Clearly, somebody has been playing way too much Street Fighter. In any case, simply move out of the way to avoid the attack and repeat the same strategy as usual until you finally defeated the big boss. No, not that big boss. After defeating him, watch him get launched into the sky and disappear like the piece of crap he is. And there you have River City Girls 2. Whew, and that about does it for this video. Sorry for the long wait for this video, but it was worth the wait. I've been writing and editing this video and analyzing the game since the game first came out back in December of 2022. Since then, WayForward has patched the game in between the time I first started making this video up until now. They rebalanced the combat and they fixed the frame rate issues on all versions of the game, so I can definitely recommend this game to you if you haven't played it yet. But don't sleep on the first game, and if you haven't, make sure to play the first River City Girls, as that game is still a modern classic that I highly recommend. Otherwise, River City Girls 2 is an amazing beat-em-up with tons of exploration, great characters, addicting gameplay, and amazing humor. Be sure to leave a like if this guide has helped you, and I'll be back with more River City Girls 2 videos in the future. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. See ya.